Ron Howard's life has always looked like a smooth ride from the outside, but behind the success there were moments of pain, rejection, and struggles that almost broke him. He grew up in a family that wanted to give him a normal childhood even while Hollywood was pulling him in. His parents, Rance and Jean, were both actors, but they struggled to survive when they moved to California in 1958 with little money and a dream. Ron was just a little boy then, with red hair and freckles, and he had no idea that his whole life was about to change. He first appeared in a movie when he wasn't even 2 years old, only because his father needed a baby in a scene. That tiny role in Frontier Woman didn't seem like anything important, but it was the beginning of something huge. Even when he started getting more offers, his parents refused to let him work full-time until he was 5. That meant turning down money they badly needed. They went into debt and thought about quitting acting altogether, but they stayed because they believed it was the best choice for Ron's future. By the time he was 5, Ron was officially acting in films like The Journey, but the experience wasn't always happy. He was bullied for his red hair and freckles, called names on set, and even his father nearly lost work because he defended him. Things began to change in 1960 when Ron got the role of Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show. He was only 6, but his natural talent stood out from over 300 kids. The show became a hit, and Ron stayed for nearly its entire run. At first he earned just $300 per episode, but by the end he was making $1,000. That kind of money helped his family, but it came with pressure. He had to memorize lines perfectly and show up like an adult while still just a child. Luckily, Andy Griffith took him under his wing. Andy became like a mentor, teaching him how to handle scenes and even protecting him. Their bond lasted for decades, and years later they even discovered they were distant cousins, something neither of them knew when they were alive together on set. Behind the scenes, things weren't always safe. In 1962, Ron nearly drowned while filming a lake scene. Andy Griffith jumped in and saved him, but producers kept it quiet. That moment left a lasting mark on him, and as a director later in life, he always insisted on safety first. By 1968, when The Andy Griffith Show ended, Ron was a teenager facing rejection. Casting directors still saw him as Opie and turned him down. He failed more than 50 auditions, felt trapped, and even thought about quitting acting. He worked small jobs, got paid less than before, and tried to live like a normal teenager, even playing basketball in high school. In 1973, things looked up when George Lucas cast him in American Graffiti. On screen it was a huge success, but behind the scenes Ron faced bullying. Co-stars Harrison Ford and Paul Lumet teased him, threw bottles near his car, locked him in a trailer, and mocked him for being a child star. They called it Opie shaming, and though Ron kept quiet, it hurt deeply. He later described it as one of his hardest moments in Hollywood. Despite that, the film exploded, making over $115 million on a small budget. Ron, however, only earned $10,000 and no share of profits. When he asked George Lucas for just 1%, worth millions, Lucas said no. The rejection stung and damaged their friendship. Meanwhile, Ron had his personal life with Cheryl Alley, whom he met in high school. They began dating as teenagers and faced rumors and gossip. A false story about Cheryl being pregnant spread across the school and even hit tabloids, costing Ron acting jobs. Still, they stayed together, and after Ron proposed multiple times, Cheryl finally said yes. They married in 1975 and built a strong marriage that lasted decades, with Ron often calling Cheryl his good luck charm. But life wasn't easy. Money was tight, so Ron delivered newspapers before school to earn extra cash. He even sold his bike after being hit in a car accident that left him with injuries and medical bills. Television brought him back into the spotlight with Happy Days. In 1974, Ron began playing Richie Cunningham, and the show quickly became a hit. By 1976, however, the focus shifted to Fonzie, played by Henry Winkler. Fonzie became a cultural icon, and the network even considered renaming the show Fonzie's Happy Days. Ron felt pushed aside, and when producers moved forward, he threatened to quit. The story leaked to the press, and fans rushed to defend him. The network backed down, but the experience showed Ron how fragile fame could be. By then, Winkler was making 3 times Ron's salary, and jealousy spread across the cast. Fights broke out, arguments about money filled the set, and at one point Anson Williams stormed off during filming. Years later, cast members even sued CBS for unpaid royalties, showing that the dark side of television never really ended. Through all of this, Ron never stopped dreaming about directing. The struggles, the bullying, the unfair contracts, and the accidents shaped how he saw Hollywood. He wanted to tell stories in a safer, more creative way. His painful experiences on Happy Days and American Graffiti made him determined to take control of his career instead of letting others push him around. He had already been through humiliation, money struggles, and even danger, and now he wanted to prove himself behind the camera. Ron Howard's journey is one of resilience. From a little boy used as a baby actor, to a child star who nearly drowned on set, to a teenager mocked by peers, and a young man bullied by his co-stars, every step was a battle. But through it all, he held on to his love for storytelling. He found strength in his family, his wife Cheryl, and his ability to turn setbacks into lessons. That's why he eventually became one of America's most beloved directors, creating films that millions cherish today. This story is much more than Hollywood glamour. It's about the hidden struggles of someone who looked like he had it all, but was often fighting just to survive in an industry that can be cruel. Ron Howard's life reminds us that success comes with scars, and the only way forward is to keep believing in yourself even when the world tries to hold you back. Ron Howard's journey through Hollywood is a story filled with huge successes, personal challenges, controversy, and moments that tested his strength as both an actor and director. His career spans decades, and through it all, he has experienced fame, betrayal, heartbreak, and victory. The story begins with a lawsuit that shocked many of the actors who worked on Happy Days. Several of the cast members claimed they never received their fair share from merchandise sales. By 1976, over 5 million Happy Days lunchboxes had been sold, bringing in millions of dollars for the studios, but the actors received nothing. After years of struggle, the case was finally settled on April 4, 2012. Each of the actors involved only received $65,000, a small amount compared to the enormous profits made. Actor Anson Williams admitted that he never made even $100,000 in a year, while the studios collected millions. Ron Howard was not part of the lawsuit, but in a 2025 interview, he revealed that the situation nearly destroyed friendships that had been built during those years. Even while he was acting on Happy Days, Ron Howard was quietly preparing for a different future. In early 1975, during a short 2-week break, he directed his first short film called Deed of Daring Do. The film was only 10 minutes long and cost just $2,000 to make. He even convinced Henry Winkler to make a cameo. The movie premiered on June 15, 1975 at a small festival. Although there were rumors that someone accused Howard of plagiarism, no proof was ever found. Copyright laws were much less clear in those days, and Howard was not directly tied to any lawsuit. What truly challenged him, however, was when legendary producer Roger Corman demanded reshoots on April 20, 1975. The reshoots cost Howard an additional $500, almost wiping out his tiny budget. Despite the struggles, the short film later won a small award at the Atlanta Film Festival on September 10, which gave Howard the confidence to continue as a filmmaker. This experience prepared him for his first feature film, Grand Theft Auto, in 1977. Ron Howard's personal life was also moving quickly during this time. On June 7, 1975, he married his high school sweetheart, Cheryl Alley, in a simple wedding in Burbank, California. The wedding cost just $800, even though Howard was already making $25,000 per episode on Happy Days. About 300 guests attended, and Henry Winkler served as his best man. Cheryl's father covered most of the expenses. Instead of a lavish celebration, the couple wanted something intimate and honest. They took a 2-week honeymoon in Hawaii, beginning on June 8, 1975. Their relationship became a steady anchor for Howard's chaotic Hollywood life. However, in 1977, tabloids began publishing false rumors, claiming Howard was unfaithful. By October 15, 1978, the National Enquirer published stories accusing him of cheating, which he described as deeply humiliating. In a 2025 interview, Howard shared that their 50th anniversary gift was a kissing chair, symbolizing their enduring love through every struggle. By July 1980, Ron Howard made a daring choice that would change his career forever. Although Happy Days was still pulling in 20 million viewers each week, Howard decided to leave. He asked ABC if he could direct TV movies, but they refused and instead offered him $100,000 a year to stay for 3 more years. He turned it down. On July 20, 1980, he signed a $1 million deal with NBC that gave him complete creative control. His exit from Happy Days shocked fans, and ABC received more than 15,000 letters from viewers begging him to return. Howard later said ABC treated him like an eagle snatching a baby, refusing to let him spread his wings. Without Richie Cunningham, ratings for Happy Days dropped by 30%, and while the show lasted until 1984 with 255 episodes, it was never the same. Howard's directing career began with a risky but successful move. Grand Theft Auto, released on June 16, 1977, cost only $600,000 but earned $15 million. Howard starred in it and co-wrote the script with his father, Rance Howard. Yet the success was almost overshadowed by tragedy. During filming, a car stunt went horribly wrong. Stuntman Paul Bartle was seriously injured, suffering broken bones and internal injuries. Howard feared the accident would ruin his career before it began. The lawsuit was settled quietly in 1978, but Howard was forever changed. From that day forward, he insisted on strict safety standards on all his sets. In the years that followed, Howard directed films that defined entire generations. In 1984, Splash hit theaters and became a major success, costing $11 million and earning $69.8 million. It turned Tom Hanks into a household name. But behind the scenes, Hanks clashed with the crew, especially during a heated argument in New York on July 15, 1983, when Howard had to break up a screaming match. Disney nearly cancelled the film, but revived it under their new Touchstone label, saving Howard's vision. In 1985, while filming Cocoon in Florida, Howard faced an unexpected threat. On February 12, an angry extra named Harold Jenkins, who had been fired, sent violent letters claiming the movie insulted the elderly. Security around Howard was tightened, costing the studio $150,000. Even with the delays, the movie released on June 21 and made $85 million, winning Oscars for Donna Mesh and visual effects. Howard continued to face challenges. In 1988, he directed Willow, a fantasy film from a story George Lucas had created in 1972. With a $35 million budget, it earned $137.6 million worldwide, but still lost $20 million due to heavy marketing costs and mixed reviews. Lucas and Howard fought constantly, even clashing in June 1987 over $5 million in budget cuts. Howard nearly quit. The film later broke even thanks to home video sales, but the experience left scars. In 1989, Howard directed Parenthood, inspired by a disastrous trip with his 4-year-old daughter. The film cost $20 million and earned $126 million, but in May that year, writer Elena Vasquez sued Howard, claiming he stole her script. The case settled in June for $500,000, just weeks before release. Tragedy returned in 1990 while filming Backdraft, a firefighter drama. On July 23, a stunt fire went out of control, burning Kurt Russell's hand and face. 3 crew members were also injured. OSHA later cited serious safety violations. Even so, the film grossed $152 million and received Oscar nominations. Howard's greatest critical success came in 1995 with Apollo 13. The film earned $355 million worldwide, but production nearly collapsed when Tom Hanks demanded historically accurate rewrites based on NASA transcripts. The entire production shut down on October 15, costing $2 million a day. NASA officials eventually stepped in to mediate. The movie later won Oscars for editing and sound. Howard faced personal threats in 1996 while making Ransom. During filming, he began receiving chilling letters threatening his children, mimicking the movie's plot. The FBI was called, phones were tapped, and suspicious cars circled his home. On March 5, his family was relocated for safety. No arrests were made, But Howard said the threats made Ransom his most personal film. Even huge hits carried struggles. How the Grinch Stole Christmas in 2000 made $345 million but caused enormous tension. Jim Carrey lost his patience with the daily 2.5-hour makeup process, once shoving Howard on March 22. Production shut down until Carrey agreed to continue. The movie went on to win an Oscar for makeup. Howard's A Beautiful Mind in 2001 won Best Picture and Best Director Oscars. But Russell Crowe's violent outbursts nearly sank the film. He threw a phone at a hotel clerk and was briefly fired on April 15, only to be rehired 2 days later due to financial pressure. Jennifer Connelly later said Howard's calm leadership kept the production together. In 2006, the Da Vinci Code ignited worldwide outrage. Religious groups accused the movie of attacking the Catholic Church, especially because it suggested Jesus married Mary Magdalene. Protests erupted in India and the Philippines, and Howard even received death threats. The Vatican banned filming permits, and at the Cannes premiere on May 17, critics booed. Despite everything, the film made $760 million worldwide. Howard's later years brought both triumph and criticism. In 2017, he was brought in to salvage Solo, a Star Wars story after the original directors were fired. He reshot 70% of the film, ballooning the budget to $275 million. Fans complained he stripped the movie of creativity, and though it earned $393 million, it was seen as a disappointment. He also dealt with lawsuits, including one in 2015 when Sudanese refugees claimed their painful stories were used in The Good Lie without fair compensation. The case was quietly settled in 2017. Even as he aged, Howard kept creating. His 2025 film Eden, based on a bizarre true story from the Galapagos in the 1920s, received mixed reviews but showed his willingness to take risks. Meanwhile, his family life remained a source of strength. He and Cheryl celebrated their 50th anniversary in 2025, recreating their very first date in the same VW Bug they drove as teenagers. Their children, including Bryce Dallas Howard, became Hollywood figures themselves, though Bryce openly acknowledged her privilege as a Nepo baby. Through triumphs and scandals, lawsuits and awards, Ron Howard built a legacy not just as a director but as a survivor in Hollywood. His career has been a journey of resilience, creativity, and relentless determination, proving that even in an industry full of betrayal and chaos, hard work and honesty can carve out a lasting mark.